The NBA. Many call it rigged, and they're totally right. But even with all the moments where the referee might as well have been trained by Ray Charles, we keep coming back for more. However, there are uniforms out there that make you wish you were Ray Charles so you wouldn't have been able to see them. Now the criteria for today is that we're doing uniforms released after 1961 when the NBA first started to expand, and it's consistent with my MLB and NFL lists. Holiday jerseys do count, as the NBA always tries to make something special because they know you're going to buy it. And if not you, it'll get sold to someone in China. The NBA is also incredibly liberal when it comes to the uniform library that every team has. It honestly seems like everyone's got a million jerseys to go off of, and as possible as it is, I'm not going to do what I did with the Detroit Lions in my last video, where I buddy up 2 or more jerseys. We'd be here all day. Now for bad Christmas jerseys, I want to limit any year to one team to avoid sounding redundant, and honestly the TLDR of this, there's just too damn much to choose from. So with that being said, this is every NBA team's worst uniform. Chicago Bulls, 2013 Christmas Big Logo Uniform. The NBA loves doing special jerseys for all teams that are lucky enough to play on Christmas, and for Christmas 2013, they decided all teams wear sleeve jerseys with their logos just slapped on the front. Granted, this isn't the only Bulls jersey with the logo on it, but this is certainly the blandest attempt. It feels less like a jersey and more like a team shirt you'd find at Walmart or maybe on Fanatics. In fact, when I showed this to a couple of coworkers, they didn't believe it was a real jersey, yet here it is, as real as ever. Sleeve jerseys were already divisive as is, even among players, but a look like this doesn't help matters either. With the logo slapped on the way it is, there's no spot to put the numbers on the front, so the geniuses at Adidas, who held the NBA license at the time, just put the player number on the left sleeve like it's a Phillies jersey. With all of this open space, surely they could tweak it and perhaps this uniform could have been salvaged. This design philosophy would have worked if this was a hockey jersey, but alas, it is not. Detroit Pistons, 1978 to 1981 uniforms. Before the Bad Boys era, the Pistons hired Dick Vitale, good old Dickie V, as their head coach after seeing his success with the University of Detroit's basketball program. And because of that hiring, they decided to revitalize their uniforms, as Detroit claimed. So what did that mean? Lightning bolts. Lightning bolts everywhere on the uniforms. Sound gimmicky? Well, that's cause it is. The Pistons have always had a clean and classic look, and trying to add lightning bolts not only looks silly, but my god does this look dated in the worst way. Dickie V himself lasted less than 2 seasons with the Pistons, accumulating a 34-60 record and getting fired 12 games into the 1979-1980 season after starting 4-8. And after that, the Pistons kept their Mighty Morphin Power Rangers looking uniform sets until dumping them for new digs in time for the 1981-1982 season. It was a silly decision for a hiring that flopped harder than Bros, though the Pistons still brought them back briefly as throwbacks in the mid-2000s, as their 90s teal jerseys were too recent to make reference to. I love you, Dickie V, and frankly, these unis weren't your fault. Milwaukee Bucks, 2018-2019 city jersey. When I first saw this, I swore it was a track uniform. Honestly, I half expect to see Usain Bolt donning this. This uniform is a reference to the Bucks court floor they used to have at Milwaukee/Mecca Arena. Interesting idea. But as a uniform, it's just one big bowl of WTF. We've got red in the right-hand corner of the jersey with more bright yellow on the left-hand side and a light shade of orange for the bottom half. And because of how the colors are divided up, Nike was forced to put the numbers right under the red section and the team name vertically. It's all ugly looking, and perhaps a court floor isn't the best thing to draw inspiration from. Indiana Pacers, 2019-2020 city jersey. Hey, did you know Indianapolis has a history with car racing? The Pacers remember. And because the Pacers remember, we got this. Now yes, the team name is also a reference to Indiana's racing heritage, but this could have been handled better. This also isn't the first time they've done a city jersey styled like this. Their 2017-2018 city jersey was similar, but was primarily navy blue with the finish line being yellow, which I felt looked far more interesting compared to this. I would have been in the camp of having the uniform sport the checker pattern rather than only having it in one area. Yes, that's how finish lines are on a track, but there's a ton of plain open space as a result with the numbers circled randomly. I think what would help is having the main color be yellow instead of white to at least make it more eye-catching. Sure, it's unique, but it could have been better. Cleveland Cavaliers, 1981 to 1983 home uniform. You were probably expecting their uniforms from the mid to late 90s. While those were also ugly, they're at least gaining nostalgia points, and they're also not this drab tan color. This tan is about as ugly as any other fake gold color you see on supposedly gold jerseys. The stripes in the rib area aren't bad, though I wish it had the team name as opposed to Cleveland. But the worst part is that this jersey is forgettable. I mean, do you see the team homaging this look at all? The aforementioned 90s look has been homaged. Outside of the color scheme of red and gold, I didn't think so. New York Knicks, 2012 Christmas uniform. I think I know where Majestic got the inspiration for their 2019 Players Weekend uniforms. I like the color orange, but also acknowledge how it's a hard color to sell for many. But an orange jersey with orange letters and numbers, this just looks ridiculous. Granted, the outlining on the letters and numbers makes everything legible, which is the most positive thing you could say about this. For a main uniform set as conservative as the Knicks, this is the loudest variant. Louder than any city jersey even, at least at the time of this recording. Boston Celtics, 2014 to 2015 Pride uniform. An ironic name, I know. Lasting only one season, the Pride jerseys, not associated with the Pride you're probably thinking of, was just a fancy name for sleeve jerseys. The Celtics green is iconic, and seeing them in gray is just sad. Sure, there is green on the base of the sleeves and on their three-leaf clover logo on the shorts, as well as outlining the team name and numbers, but there's nowhere near enough to break up the gray. It's just so boring. Thank God these were short-lived. Toronto Raptors, Canadian Armed Forces uniform. Now, while I didn't count Memorial Day uniforms for MLB, NBA uniforms are still eligible since Toronto and San Antonio are the only teams ever to sport a camo variant. Maybe some other teams I can't think of off the top of my head. To put it short, they're easy picking in the Raptors. Camo doesn't look right on a basketball jersey, let alone on a team whose main color is red. Don't get me wrong, it's for a good cause, but it looks outright ridiculous. Furthermore, with the camo, fans in attendance and watching on TV can't see them. They tortured fans by making it look like their opponents are playing an invisible team. Brooklyn Nets, 2014 gray alternate. Especially after the move to Brooklyn, the Nets have a plethora of uniforms that I could put here, but let's go with the least interesting, the worst of the worst. This gray alternate is meant to homage the Brooklyn Dodgers, the former face of this particular borough. Unfortunately, it's also stuck using the Nets' honestly drab font that frankly should be changed up. Adidas doesn't have the gray fetish that Nike does, but this gray jersey doesn't do anything positive for them either. Why not have the city or even team name in cursive similar to the Dodgers? It's a bad jersey that does a half-assed job homaging another team. How sad. Everyone brings up their 90s acid wash jersey in terms of worst NBA jerseys, but that's at least interesting. Here, not so much. Philadelphia 76ers, 1991 to 1994 uniforms. Ever wondered what NBC's The More You Know would look like as a jersey? Well, the Sixers answered that question that nobody asked. The Bulls may have owned the 90s, but the Sixers by far had the most 90s looking uniforms. I'll give it points for actually spelling out Philadelphia across the front, because God knows that's a rarity in Philly sports. But the part where the team name is shooting forward with stars trailing it, absolutely silly. It looks childish and certainly didn't do players like Charles Barkley any favors. They'd be replaced by a boring but clean look just in time for the 94-95 season, before those were replaced by the godly Iverson era jerseys in the 97-98 season. Washington Wizards, 2006 gold alternate. Oh hey, a gold jersey that's actually metallic. Oh god, this doesn't look any better. This is the clothing equivalent of fake jewelry. This was during a time where the Wizards and even the Capitals were donning color schemes that weren't red, white, and blue and
this was a result. I personally have some nostalgia for this style of Wizards uniform, but the gold version is a bit much. I'm glad it doesn't look like diarrhea, but the metallic sheen makes it look like it's made of satin. And paired with the black shorts, it's putting me in mind of those gold Saints jerseys. It's as if the Wizards just copied that on the basis that gold was in their color scheme too. But all in all, just gaudy. Miami Heat. 2021 Trophy Gold Earned Edition uniform. Not only is the color of this off, but so is the timing of this uniform. See, the Heat rolled this out for the 2020-2021 season to commemorate their 3 NBA titles, which sounds alright, except this was the year after they lost to the Lakers in the Mickey Mouse Bubble Finals. Yikes. For even more irony, the shade of yellow even looks like Laker yellow, so I'm just scratching my head even further. The amount of failure ingrained into this uniform is the equivalent of shooting yourself in the foot twice. Orlando Magic 2014 to 2015 Pride uniform. You know what? Maybe Adidas does have a gray fetish. Like the Celtics one from earlier, the Magic's main blue color is on there in small sections, with the rest being taken up by the dull gray. However, the pinstripes on this look off. The Magic have been rocking pinstripes ever since their inception, but here, I don't like how they're spread out on the top half and then all close together at the bottom half. Furthermore, why aren't there any on the sleeves? Maybe it's because I'm used to how it's done in baseball, but the sleeves look out of place without the addition of pinstripes like on the main body. Charlotte Hornets 2009 to 2011 pinstripes and racing checkers uniform. Keeping on the topic of pinstripes, we've arrived in Charlotte. Now, pinstripes have always been divisive in basketball circles. You either love them or you hate them. I personally love basketball jerseys with pinstripes, whereas my dad hates them. However, I think uniforms like these help strengthen my dad's argument. The color scheme that the Bobcats used was always dull, as if life was sucked out of it, and the pinstripes didn't help that matter. The only reason the Bobcats even had pinstripes was because the Hornets sported them before moving to New Orleans. And in addition, because Charlotte also has ties to racing, they put checkered patterns on the side inserts on the uniform. What? This is just silly. I would blame MJ for this, but they first wore these in 2009, 1 year before MJ bought the team. There is a version of this jersey without pinstripes, but it's not much better. Atlanta Hawks 2015 to 2020 uniforms. Patterns, like pinstripes, can be hit or miss on uniforms. My philosophy is if there's a pattern, it should be on the entire thing. The Hawks uniform change in 2015 is still divisive even to this day. Sure, the jerseys they were sporting before the 2015-2016 season weren't anything special, but it was a clean look nonetheless. The pattern used is referred to as carbon fiber, but I don't think Atlanta is associated with exotic supercars that are typically made out of this stuff. The pattern is on all 3 of the jerseys, but you know where it's missing? The shorts. Yeah, why is the pattern absent there? Are you fully committed to having the pattern or not? Besides that, this pattern does nothing for me. The highlighter yellow that these uniforms also featured looked off on this, as if a 3rd grader colored in parts during class. Let's admit it, we all used highlighter to color things in during school, but in the end, the Hawks chose to follow in the footsteps of Atlanta's former hockey team, the Flames, and go back to an iconic throwback look, and frankly, they've looked better ever since. Memphis Grizzlies 2018 to present uniforms. The Grizzlies uniforms before the 2018 season were never anything special, but these ones they've been sporting since the 2018 season? I'm sorry, but I don't dig these. And that's a shame for a team on the upswing like Memphis is. For me, the peak of Grizzly uniforms was their Vancouver digs, and I don't care what other sports outlets say. This look is clean, don't get me wrong, but there's no style. It's boring. The most exciting thing about this uniform set is the baby blue version with the team name in a curve with some hints of yellow. That's it. Furthermore, I've never been a fan of putting the player name under the number rather than above. Call me old-fashioned, but that's a style that just doesn't jive with me. Maybe someday we'll see a new Grizzlies redesign once again. I would suggest something that combines old elements with new elements and their current colors. New Orleans Pelicans. Original Mardi Gras uniforms. Playing in the Big Easy, The Hornets / Pelicans would of course be required to celebrate Mardi Gras in Partyville, USA, and not just because the NBA season runs during Fat Tuesday. However, their first attempt at making a Mardi Gras jersey, ill. Have you ever gone to the mall or look online and see fake jerseys that you'd probably see in an old Saints Row game? I'm getting those kinds of vibes. The entire front is purple, whereas the entire back is green, with yellow on the sides dividing both colors. They are far from the only team to ever do this, but this color combination was never meant to be on a jersey. Even the Jazz never put all three colors on their jerseys in this amount. Thankfully, Mardi Gras jerseys for the team would get better as the years went on. San Antonio Spurs, gray alternate uniform. I'll be honest, the Spurs are one of those teams where it's hard to say anything bad about their uniforms. Even when their color scheme was all bright colors that came standard with Wake Me Up Before You Go-Go playing in the background, it's hard to get onto them for uniform decisions. However, this gray uniform is something I can get onto them for. The Spurs needed a third jersey, so they remembered silver / gray was in their color scheme and based it around this. They didn't even bother putting the team name across the front. Instead, they put the logo on. Granted, some people don't mind gray, apparently, if comments on my NFL videos saying that people out there like the Lions' gray color rush or anything to go by, but for me, these don't do it for me. It's as vanilla as can be. Houston Rockets. 2020 to 2021 city jersey. These are meant to homage the Houston Oilers, and the second half of the season even marked 25 years since the Oilers left Houston for Tennessee and eventually became the Titans. But with all that said, Oiler blue doesn't look too hot on the Rockets. Sure, the Rockets have donned blue in the past, and their city jersey the next year was an homage to that look, but that was a navy blue shade rather than this baby blue that this jersey has. Baby blue does not work for the Rockets, even though the intentions were all right. Also, after seeing Space City on the Astros City Connect uniforms, I'm getting tired of only seeing H-Town on the Rockets city jerseys. Dallas Mavericks, 2003 silver uniform. This gem lasted one game before Mark Cuban realized the mistake he had made. It honestly looks like it's made out of satin. Sure, silver is in the Mavericks color scheme, but there's a reason metallic colors are reserved as accents on a jersey. Sure, it's not a snore fest like an all-gray uniform that exists because silver is in the color scheme, but this doesn't look much better. And on top of all that, it only lasted one game as mentioned earlier. After the Mavs lost to the Lakers 109-93, these uniforms were scrapped. I can only imagine what was going on in the heads of Dirk Nowitzki and Steve Nash when they saw these in the locker room before getting dressed for the game. Minnesota Timberwolves, 2017 to present uniforms. The uniforms that the Timberwolves had started sporting in 1996 were beautiful. They would be updated over the years, but the spiky style remained. However, with their 2017 redesign, no. This is absolutely boring. Maybe the bar was set so high that anything after would pale by comparison. The plain looking numbers and even plainer text for the city and team names, ugh. This was part of a league-wide initiative for Nike to redesign uniforms, and this was the best they could come up with. How sad. It reminds me of those posts where people try to come up with their own uniforms, except this one came true. Frankly, I wish this was relegated to being an internet post. Utah Jazz. 2004 to 2010 uniforms. The Jazz before and after this have had some fantastic uniforms, especially those uniforms from the 90s where they integrated the mountains into the background. Now that's some good stuff right there. But this redesign introduced in 2004 is about as vanilla as Salt Lake City itself, maybe even the entire state of Utah. They tried to make it look interesting by having the name try to jump out like it's a 3D movie, but it wasn't enough. The text is plain, and the irony is that they were still using the same logo, and yet that wasn't what appeared on the jerseys during this time. The team had no problem using the logo's font on the jersey while changing the colors, but here they decided against that. Just a swing and a miss, and thankfully the team has moved on since this. Denver Nuggets, 2018 to present statement jersey. The NBA has had this strange thing recently where they can't just call jerseys home, road, or alternate, at least ever since Nike took over in 2017. Nowadays, the white jersey is association, the colored jersey is icon, and the alternate is statement, with of course city jersey being the fourth jersey. Anyways, the Nuggets jerseys have always been the most out there, whether it involves rainbows or even the Carmelo era baby blues. But these statement jerseys jerseys here are the plainest jerseys they've ever done. I appreciate this saying Mile High City referencing Denver's nickname, but it's just circled around the number in the front and that's it. No rainbows, no Denver skyline, and it looks like it was slapped together at the last second. If you're going to have the city's nickname on it, why not also accompany it with the city skyline? Nike could have done it, but they didn't. And yes, it has been modified since 2018, but it's still the same damn thing. Oklahoma City Thunder, 2017 to 2018 F5 City jersey. You don't need to have watched the movie Twister to know that Oklahoma is in Tornado Alley and thus attracts tornadoes like a magnet. Well, for the Thunder's first city jersey, they decided to reference that. However, F5 tornadoes are the most dangerous types, and this looks more like an excuse for Nike to inject gray into something. Sure, dark clouds are gray, and I appreciate the gradient from dark gray to a lighter gray, but nothing screams tornado to me. Sure, there's an orange and blue stripe that wrap around the uniform, but that's it. Cool concept, but the execution falls flat on its face. Portland Trailblazers, 2021 Earned Edition uniform. Now you're probably wondering what the hell Earned Edition means. Basically, it was to commemorate the Blazers making the playoffs the previous year. I call it BS just so Nike could get their gray fix. Remember that episode of Powerpuff Girls where Rainbow the Clown turns into Mr. Mime and sucks the color out of everyone and everything in Townsville? That's what this is. The Blazers have always had one of the best modern jerseys in the league, but removing all the colors takes out any personality, though it's fitting for a rainy city like Portland, I guess. Sacramento Kings, 2005 to 2006 gold uniform. The Kings looked at the Wizards' gold uniforms and thought, let's make this worse. Now yes, crowns are typically gold, but unlike the Wizards who had a gold jersey and black shorts, the Kings opted for all gold. If it were a satin robe, it'd be one thing, but this has to be the gaudiest uniform to have ever been worn in the NBA. What's miraculous is that these lasted longer than the Mavs metallic jerseys, but this is the Kings we're talking about here. It's a jersey that Kings fans and other basketball fans alike can agree that not only is it the worst uniform in the team's history, but the worst uniform in basketball overall. It's also asymmetrical for some reason with a white stripe on the right side, but only the purple trim on the left side. I don't get it. Golden State Warriors, 2012 to 2013 yellow sleeve uniform. This was the first sleeve jersey that Adidas decided to come out with, and there are some things wrong with it. First off, collars that work on a typical basketball jersey don't work on a short sleeve shirt. They honestly would have been better off with a normal looking collar. Second, there's pinstripes on the shorts, but not on the jersey. Why is that? To my knowledge, the Warriors have never donned pinstripes, and here they just decided to put them on the shorts. Why not have plain shorts to match what's on top? Thankfully, ever since this, the Warriors have sported better yellow uniforms that don't require sleeves or mismatched shorts. Los Angeles Lakers, 2020 to 2021 city jersey. Ever seen that image of a kid getting a knockoff Kobe jersey that even has Lakers spelled wrong? This puts me in mind of that. Compared to their other city jerseys before and since, this is quite plain and boring. Baby blue is a color from the Lakers' history, yes, but their white jersey has always been the least interesting. It's not the white jersey's fault that the yellow and purple jerseys were just much cooler. And this iteration of another Lakers white jersey, just forgettable. They wanted to homage their past look, but only did it in half measures. Why not have the whole jersey be blue, or at the very least color the numbers in? But no, that alas did not happen. Los Angeles Clippers, 2015 to 2017 red uniform. Ah yes, the team Ice Cube said should move out of LA. Maybe they can bring the Chargers back to San Diego as well while they're at it. Anyways, the Clippers' former red jersey has always been clean, but then in 2015, the Clippers got a total redesign in the latter years of Adidas' holding of the NBA license. Instead of having the team name or even city on the front, Adidas slapped the then new Clippers logo on the right-hand side with the number on the left-hand side. The logo is meant to read LAC, like how they're abbreviated in a score box on TV, but instead it reads CLA if you read the letters from left to right. I can understand wanting to change things up a bit, especially when you're trying to give the team a new identity post Donald Sterling, but this looks dumb. When it comes to putting logos like the Clippers on the front, it almost looks like a shirt you'd find on Fanatics rather than a professional jersey. Phoenix Suns, 2014 to 2015 gray sleeve sleeve uniform. The Suns may be last here, but they're certainly not least. However, looking at these, they sure look the part. With the Suns' color scheme of purple and orange, you'd think there'd be ample opportunity to have either of those colors flourish, but I guess not. This might just be me, but I swear the gray here is darker than those Celtics and Magic jerseys from earlier. You do get hints of the Suns' iconic orange, but not much else. For a team called the Suns, this uniform is more akin to a dark cloud.
So that will do it for today. If you thought something else should have been mentioned, or you like any of the jerseys listed, go ahead and leave a comment. I always encourage it. Anyways, see you later.